Good morning and welcome to today's webinar, A Smarter Way to JD Edwards Mobile Apps. How to deploy JD Edwards mobile applications for iPhone, Android, BlackBerry, and Windows Mobile. My name is Glenn Johnson. I'm a Senior Vice President here at Magic Software Enterprises, and I'm joined today by Michael Singer. We want to thank you all for joining us as well on this beautiful sunshiny day here in Southern California, and we hope that you're having a great day wherever you are. We're going to be just spending a couple of moments introducing Magic Software, and then we'll get right into our topic, and we will have a full demonstration of the Magic XPA and Magic XPI solution for mobility for JD Edwards customers in today's webinar. As a matter of housekeeping, if you have a question, please feel free to enter it into the chat box at any time, and we'll be happy to try to answer those questions for you. So we thank you for joining us. We will be sharing this webinar online in a recorded fashion at some point in the future. You can check back at magicsoftware.com under News and Events, Recorded Webinars. So once again, thanks for joining us, and let's begin today's session. Magic Software Enterprises is a company that is empowering customers around the globe with smarter technology that delivers what we would call a multi-channel user experience for enterprise processes and business logic and data. Our core value is to deliver that smarter way to go about processing your business information and data, the logic, being able to create the solutions as an IT department that your business users demand. And we are a global provider, therefore, of application development and business integration platforms. We leverage 30 years of proven experience with our innovative technology and focus the application of that on the business needs of our customers through a network of business partners and through many, many successes of our existing customers. We were established back in 1983, and we are now traded on the NASDAQ Stock Exchange under the ticker symbol MGIC. Magic Software has 15 offices worldwide. We have customers in more than 50 countries. We have about 1,000 employees and 2,500 business partners around the world, with thousands of customers and millions of end users that are using the applications that we offer. The Magic Integration Platform for JD Edwards has been featured by Oracle as part of their seminar series on JD Edwards upgrades, and this slide that you're looking at currently is included in that session, where they talk about how the Magic XPI integration platform allows you to connect JD Edwards to hundreds of different systems through a drag, drop, and configure approach that allows you to create integration flows in a code-free fashion, to be able to build and monitor your integration with one tool set. And they look at how that preserves integration flows even when it comes time to upgrade JD Edwards versions. And so they cite the example of our mutual customer, Mizuno, whose e-commerce integration kept running with near zero effort when they upgraded from Enterprise 1 8.1 to 9.1. So this is very pleasing to us that Oracle has recognized the value of the Magic XPI integration platform and is particularly promoting it to customers who are considering upgrades to newer versions of JD Edwards. Today's topic is enterprise mobility. We're here today because there's just such a massive movement in enterprise IT departments towards finding ways to incorporate mobile apps that are useful for B2C, B2B, and business to employer, B2E uses. And this is being driven by massive trends in the consumer world that have an effect on what we're doing as businesses. And so we see that the forecast for enterprise mobility is some $173 billion by 2017, according to GSI. The numbers of Downloads in 2015 are expected to reach 89 billion. Compound annual growth rates of something like 12% are being driven by huge increases in the number of mobile workers and by the number of smartphones and tablets that are available to people. And we particularly see this increasing in developing markets around the world as well, where traditional computer infrastructure in the past may not have been as strong, but mobile phones, mobile and tablets are available and therefore are coming into particular use in those markets as well. So this is exciting, getting us to this point of discussing the topic for today. However, we realize that it can be confusing. There's a lot of terminology, chaos, if you will, that appears to be out there in the marketplace as there are different players, different technologies that cause us to ask, is this really, too big a challenge for a small to medium-sized IT department to take on? Should we really be getting into this? And obviously, when we phrase, the title of the slide deck today, a smarter way to JD Edwards mobile apps, we're obviously here to tell you that there's a way that you can reduce and overcome this chaos. And so that's what we'll get into in today's webinar. So we said one of the major trends that's driving attention towards mobility is this overall trend of the consumerization of IT, where the people who are utilizing business apps are increasing in their expectation that their experience will mirror in many respects what they have experienced as consumers, not only through the web, but also through mobile apps on their smartphones, through mobile apps on their iPads and other kinds of tablets. And so that trend is one that causes IT departments to kind of, either be in one of two positions. Either one is saying, no, you don't really need this, it's not relevant to business, those fancy user interfaces and, capabilities don't apply to us. Or saying, yes, we see the relevance of it, but you're going to have to give us some time to figure it out so that we can deploy this out. And of course, many IT departments have figured it out. The question is, at what expense? Can we really afford to do this in our business? What is a better way, a smarter way to deploy this so that we can develop and deploy it so that it doesn't really cost a lot? Now, because of all the smartphones that are out there and the trends show that Android is growing, Symbian has really fallen off. We see BlackBerry, of course, having experienced some pretty severe conditions in the marketplace, and that is something that you can read about and understand. But the reality is that it's just an unpredictable market at this point. No one can say for sure that there isn't going to be some new entrant that will come into the mobile marketplace that will cause our users to start demanding some new operating system. No one can say that something that is popular today won't run into trouble as a result of that and fall to, say, below a 10% market share. It seems like things are solidifying, but there's no way to know for certain. So it's best to take an approach which is flexible, which can adapt to changes in the underlying technology. And of course, that's what we'll be showing you today in today's webinar. Currently, as you're looking at how to develop, some people look at HTML5 as a solution for cross-platform. They see it as a way to provide a common user experience across multiple underlying device operating systems by putting the application in a browser and sticking it on a smartphone. The challenge with that, of course, is that there still remain compatibility issues with some of the extensions that are being used to HTML5 that really are not standards. They're proposed standards, and there's a fair amount of uncertainty connected with those. And also because of the fact that the user experience becomes somewhat bland. Not that the HTML5 interaction isn't exciting, but it's just not reflective at times of the native environment. And so there's a whole challenge there. And so some people look at creating a more native experience by using a native container for their HTML5 work. That would be known basically as a hybrid application. And then others say, well, no, we want that true native experience, so they're developing in the operating system and in the development tools that are native to each of the client operating systems. You know, in BlackBerry, it's J2ME. The challenge to that is that it's viewed as being incomplete and inconsistent with the MID-P 2.0 profile, so that you're really writing it and then porting it multiple times to the different devices that are part of the BlackBerry marketplace. That's not very exciting. Android is a different flavor of Java. It's incompatible with J2ME, even though the name is very similar. That you know, J2SE becomes a different world, and of course, it's not the same as what's used in the iPhone community. So, you know, again, challenges there. Now, with iPhone, the native environment is Objective-C. It's a proprietary scripting approach, which is mixed with some C-like kinds of capabilities. And of course, it runs exclusively and only on the iPhone, which is problematic because it means if you develop there, then when you go to the next environment, you're developing something else or trying to find another way. Windows Phone has got this Metro look and feel. It's got Java in it. It's got, you know, maybe some .NET left over in it. Very confusing to people who are looking at Windows Mobile as to what Microsoft's exact strategy is. But and also a very small market share still at this point with Windows Phone, but one knowing that it's Microsoft doesn't really know where that's going to lead. It could become a market leader. So all of these multiple native development languages are problematic. If your IT department is being asked to serve, you know, 2 or more of these, then you know that you're forking your development effort if you use the native tools. If you go to HTML5, you're sacrificing the native experience that the users expect, and so it's a very difficult decision. What do I do? Magic solution is to provide a client which is a native experience and an ability to develop so that you can actually see a native app running in any of these 4 environments and base all of that on only one native development environment. And in addition to that, by the way, that's also going to take care of your server side issues. In addition to that, by the way, you have the companion Magic XPI integration platform, which provides you with the back-end integration to JD Edwards, which is, of course, the primary reason that most of you are here is that that is your ERP environment, and in order to create business apps that connect, you need the integration as well. And so this is a really great combination of capabilities in Magic XPA and Magic XPI that overcome the integration challenge and the fragmentation challenge that we're talking about. So you don't need to be chained to your desktop. You know, IT systems are obviously designed for completeness, thoroughness, and accuracy. Desktops that we use to access them most of the time are stationary. The laptops that we use some of the time are mobile, but they're inaccessible in many contexts. You know, it's just not easy to use laptops everywhere. And yet business-critical processes are running in our organizations 24/7. So the users do not want to feel chained to their desktops. They want to feel that the IT systems are available to them at any time via mobile devices, but they don't want to just port the entire ERP system onto their smartphone. It just isn't practical. They don't even want the entire ERP system ported to their iPad. That's really not an effective solution for most users. If you're using a mobile device, there's a reason you're using a mobile device. You're on the run, and so therefore you want access to just very limited, specific business functions at a particular time. And as an IT department, you want to make sure that you have a pretty foolproof, simplified solution where, you know, while they're, you know, on the one hand, you know, having dinner with their friends, they're not skipping over, you know, important steps in the process. So you can't take this to dinner with you. It's just not that practical to take your JD Edwards world to dinner. So what Cleveland Golf did was create an app that they could actually take into the stores of their customers. It's called iRep, and it's their in-house designed sales order and entry and marketing application for iPad. They use Magic XPI to do the integration for their app. Orders are transmitted directly from their reps' iPads into JD Edwards, and the company is also providing updated content to this iRep mobile app. So as you look at it, you see an app that allows them to get in front of their customers with a kind of notebook or clipboard style sales approach, where they're showing it to the end user, and the end user is looking over their shoulder as they work. Well, right there's just a huge difference in the paradigm. You wouldn't have a customer looking over your shoulder as you enter things into your JD Edwards ERP system. That's not the way any of us work, I don't think. So the normal approach, of course, is to have someone on the phone, or do it after the fact, whatever it is. But with the iPad paradigm, the in-store sales paradigm that Cleveland Golf uses, where they have a store manager that's buying the products and their own salesperson who's selling the products, they're both looking at this application at the same time. So right there, it had to be designed with a different approach. It's much more visual than it might be otherwise, with lots of pictures of products, and all of the selections, of course, need to be there that the customer would then be able to select the specific configuration of the product that they're looking for, sizes, left hand versus right hand, and ambidextrous, so on. So they have these various choices. In the products that they select, they get an order summary together for the total store order, and then as they submit that, of course, they have overcome this problem of mobile isolation. They have an app that is working, connected to JD Edwards, synchronized to the data in JD Edwards, so that they're constantly presenting their customers with current solutions and have inventory awareness at the time that they're doing that. So we need to end the problem of mobile isolation for everyone's business, so that users that lack JD Edwards access on their mobile devices can get that. We need to make sure that process critical details, which are locked into non-JD Edwards systems, also become available to our users. For example, if you're using a third-party CRM solution, or a third-party e-commerce platform, or supply chain management system, that the process and the data are both relevant to our JD Edwards users while they're out in the field and on their phones. But it's difficult, as we said, to support all these smartphones, and as a result, some people who have attempted this have broken business processes because there are too many systems, screens, and broken promises as a result. So we need to find ways to mobilize our business processes, to do the analysis that's necessary in order to look at our business processes and ask, where is it that we need to have a mobile version of this process that can take place when we're away from the systems that we utilize? And so these are examples of where we might want to cross over the traditional approach to the business process. As we look at JD Edwards, we might break it into these four major categories of business processes: opportunity to order, order to cash, customer care, and procure to pay. And when we do so, we can start to think creatively about the JD Edwards apps that might be appropriate to our business. And so as we look at these JD Edwards mobile apps, we can see that there are a number of areas where apps can be extremely useful in our organization, whether those are apps that face salespeople or customers or field-based field service employees. Maybe mobile apps are being used in the warehouse or by remote employees, or simply by employees who are on the go at the time that they're utilizing the app. And all these kinds of different apps are going to have different value in different organizations. So you don't need all of them. In fact, it would be smart to choose to start with 2, 3 maybe, and deploy those to your customers, customized for your business exactly the way you want it. And that's what we're suggesting today, is that once you have that mobile app specification in mind, There's a plug-and-go approach with Magic XPA, which is fully customizable, allows you to do the JD Edwards integration in a bidirectional manner. Also integrate to your Oracle Edge applications. Maybe you have Agile PLM, maybe you're using PeopleSoft for HR, or other Oracle applications like Primavera, and so on. And then there are third-party apps as well that might need to be integrated into this process, and you want to be able to utilize a common server platform to bring all of that together and deploy those mobile apps in the form of Magic XPI's integration platform and Magic XPA's application platform for cross-platform mobile device support. The best approach to this, of course, is to use loosely coupled integration, and that is another way of saying that you need to utilize service-oriented architecture where you're exposing capabilities as services and utilizing them in multiple apps and multiple instances. We're offering what we call 30 days to app, which is from the moment that we have finalized the mobile app specification. Magic's professional services team is willing to work with you to provide you with that specified app and deliver that to you integrated to JD Edwards in 30 days. So what are some of those four major areas where we might see some other kinds of apps? So opportunity to order, there would be things like lead visibility, the ability for your salespeople to look into leads, maybe something a little more robust, actually have full mobile CRM activity, recording of activities and recording those interactions with customers. Quote approval processes so that the quotes that you're providing to customers are approved by the appropriate people in management. And mobile order acceptance, where you're actually then processing and converting from opportunity to order. Common mashup candidates in these scenarios, in addition to JD Edwards, you might also be integrating to another third-party CRM system, particularly those of you who are using JD Edwards World, where there's no built-in capability for CRM. Then you're more likely using Salesforce.com or Microsoft Dynamics CRM or Sugar CRM or one of these solutions. The second major area we talked about is order to cash, and here you might have things like a mobile product configurator, product catalogs, price lists, order entry apps, billing approval apps, aging reports that you can view on your smartphones and tablets, return materials authorization approvals, billing dispute management solutions, so that if you have a disputed invoice, you can have people that are resolving that in real time on the go from their mobile devices and so on. These are all examples of order-to-cash apps that you may want to specify for your organization and then make a part of that 30-day to app program so that you can have the solution that you're looking for. Here again, your most common mashup candidates are going to be your CRM systems, but also perhaps payment processing systems, banking systems, and so forth. Mobilizing JD Edwards business processes in the third area is customer care. And we look at things like service ticket, being able to review service tickets, being able to route customer service inquiries and tasks to the specific providers in your organization. So being able to do that from your mobile phone, so that, say, the service manager has 5 issues coming in, they're out at lunch, they want to assign those immediately, so they do so from a customer service routing mobile app. Customer service knowledge bases can also be useful when you're out in the field on the go, and these are just a few small examples of what you might want to include. Mashup candidates are going to include CRM systems, which are also used to track the service-related information for our customers. And here we're going to start to see often different kinds of CRM systems that are less sales-focused, and start to look at systems like perhaps the BMC software Remedy CRM, or a very service-specific solution like Click Software. And then the final area, major area that we talked about was procure to pay, where the example apps would include things like PO approvals, invoice validation, invoice exceptions management, and here this is kind of the opposite end of the dispute invoice dispute process, where you're looking at it from the standpoint of managing your suppliers and their invoices, and then cash disbursements approvals. And there are a large number of mashup candidates here, everything from Red Prairie and Manhattan Scale and Infor and JDA and so on. So there's a lot of different possibilities on this side. So as we look at mobile apps and we consider how they are utilized, how you can create a mobile app for your customers that integrates to the back-end systems, exposing things like key performance indicators so that people can take a look at what's going on in their warehouse even when they're away from the warehouse and so on. You want to do that across multiple devices. And so to do that, you need what Gartner calls a mobile enterprise application platform. In other words, a solution that provides a development and deployment framework that provides tools for client, server, and middleware for mobile, and that does so on any device and any mobile operating system, including smartphones and tablets, and that is including multi-channel and offline capabilities. So the enterprises that we're talking to today are planning to develop apps for suppliers, for employees, for customers, and they're planning to do that across multiple operating systems. And if they were to do that, they'd need, without a MEP platform, then there would be multiple client languages that they would need to learn, as well as a server-side language, as well as solving transport and communication challenges, and that involves a lot of line-by-line coding, multiple debuggers, and so on, something that the Magic XP application platform allows you to avoid. So there's this dream out there, this dream of enterprise mobility where you can go anywhere, do anything, and happily perform our current jobs. And as I like to point out, the reality is often quite different. The reality of enterprise mobility is that, we're somewhere else for a reason. We're usually doing something else when that phone rings or when that app needs to be used. So we're multitasking, and we're often in transit. There's a whole context shift. So as you're designing these apps, it's important not to try to just mash down all the capabilities of JD Edwards into a single app. What you want to do is really work with your business users to find those things that are a particular problem when they're out of the office, a particular problem when it's non-office hours that really need to be resolved right then and there and can't wait until the next day. Or if we couldn't make it so that they don't wait until the next day, then we're going to create a better customer experience. And it's going to be worth that interruption and that extra effort. So mobile is more than a change in scenery. It's a change in our intention of what we want to do. It's field-based. As we mentioned in the case of Cleveland Golf, sometimes the customer is actually looking over our shoulder. And quite often what we want to do can be informed by our location. As we're interacting with customers, wouldn't it be great to know which customers are close and nearby? In certain types of sales operations, that's useful information, and that's really going to affect our next decision or our next call. The next call I should make while I'm out in the field is probably to someone who's nearby. Well, how does it know where I am? It knows that based on the GPS of the phone. Camera-ready apps are also very useful, just things like expense report management. And I realize that that's one of the 4 applications that Oracle has provided, but to be able to snap a picture of the receipt and process that and attach it and put it through a mobile through an approval process is very useful. And quite often, the approval processes are something that get overlooked in the design of these applications. So the context has shifted. What about a field asset management mobile app where there's been damage and you need to take a photo of the damage to that asset in the field in order to attach that to the record so that folks back in the office who are evaluating, when to do the repair, how to prioritize it, and so forth, can actually get a sense of what it is that they're dealing with. A mobile app that has a camera attached to it is a complete paradigm shift. It's a context shift. From our laptops, we probably weren't going to do that, and certainly from our desktops, that just wasn't an option because the asset was out in the field. So this context shift means that we have less time, less attention, and there's a greater urgency to solve the business issue now and probably leave some of the unimportant details to others. Maybe simply take care of them later so that some of the follow-up tasks associated to the critical task are queued up and held until later. Maybe the default values and settings just need to be better utilized. There needs to be some more thought given to that so that those things are pre-populated. It makes it easier to interact with the application. And maybe it really needs to remember our preferences so that the use of the app is really geared to the individual user and the context or the situation that the app believes that it's in based on location, last activity taken, and other information. So hurdling barriers to enterprise mobility means overcoming the problem of fragmentation in development and deployment environments. It means overcoming the challenge of integration to back-end systems, and it means overcoming the challenge that every business and every company is unique, and there's going to be customization required to these apps. The idea that there's some universal template that's good enough for everybody simply has not proven to be the case when it comes to enterprise mobility. So native development is an option, but it's one that we would suggest avoiding because you still have to deal with this context shift. You still have to find the right balance in the applications, critical functionality. You need broad capabilities. It's very costly if you do this all with native development, and so the effort can really be beyond the capabilities of the internal resources that we have in our organizations. The Meet platform is the solution. Overall, Meet platforms provide the ability to deal with multiple devices so that you have broader adoption of your apps. You can reach more users. They're cross-platform, which means you write your application once and you deploy it into many of these environments. They have built-in features that reduce the programming effort. A Meet platform is repository-based, meaning that it's leveraging existing code that's solving similar problems. Allows you to therefore work with a smaller development team, and as we all know, the less communication that's required between developers, the number of developers, then the faster the time to app is going to be. And the Meet platform gives you true native deployment so that you have that suitable look and feel, so that an iPhone app allows you to drag across with your thumb, and it has that iPhone feel, and a BlackBerry app is more keyboard oriented and has a BlackBerry feel, and so on. So Magic's advantages as a Meet platform is that we're entirely metadata driven. Everything's reusable. You have this great 10x in development productivity. There's no native coding or debugging ever required. You're able to take advantage of the right once deploy many approach. You have native deployment so that you can utilize the App Store, the enterprise servers, all of the methods that are available for deploying apps on your various platforms. And you're using a proven platform that's designed for enterprise needs, one that can give you, with new mobile clients, an expected look and feel in the native environment, is completely scalable, and has the most complete integration. So with that, I'm now going to pass things over to Michael, who's going to show us how all of these various components can work together and how we can create mobile apps. And I'm going to do that by just highlighting Michael's name here as I speak and giving him that capability here. So making him the presenter right now. There we go. Michael, you should have the con, as they say on Star Trek.
Let me know when you see my screen, as they say on Star Trek.
I can. I see something that looks like a mobile app, a mobile phone.
Thank you. So what we're going to take a look at today is we're going to take a look at an app. We'll go through its capabilities. We'll look at it on Android and on iPhone. And then we're going to go a little behind the scenes and see how the app talks with the server, how the data goes back into backend systems, and so on. So let's start with loading the app. This is a simple app we wrote as a demo, but it has a lot of capabilities in it. It's basically, the concept is this is an app our end user is using, is going and visiting customers. He has a tour plan and he sees all the customers he's going to visit today. He can open his contacts and he can see a list of contacts that he has. He can look at the details of one of these customers that he's going to meet today. And from the app, he can open native capabilities. He can call a customer right from the app. I'm hoping I'm not calling someone right now. And different capabilities. Now, this is all nice. This is all data that came directly from his backend systems, from Salesforce, from JD Edwards. But let's go to the iPhone. I'm going to open the exact same app. And we're going to look at it on the iPhone, and you already see it looks a little different, not too much. Basically, the idea is to have the app work and look the same, but also, on the other hand, have native capabilities. So, for example, the back button, which you don't have on an Android screen, you have it on an iPhone screen. These are all native capabilities. Now, our end user is going to want to actually interact with this backend system. He doesn't want only to see data, but he suddenly meets someone at a conference, and he wants to add him to his address book on his JD Edwards system or Salesforce. So he's going to click this button and say Add Contact, and he's going to enter some details here. His first name, Glenn. He just met you at the conference. He wants to enter you real quick into his address book on JD Edwards. He's going to enter his email, his address, the city, and country, and he's going to click Save. Now, when he clicks Save, this is the data that's being sent. Obviously, our end user is not supposed to see that, but since we're developers here, we want to see what's going on. So this data here is being sent from the client to the server, from the phone to our backend server. When I hit OK, give it a second, and it's actually writing the data into JD Edwards. And we're going to get a message from JD Edwards and Salesforce, and we're going to get the user, the ID that was created on JD Edwards and the ID that was created on Salesforce. And now we have this new user that was added to our database on the backend system. So we see the whole way from a phone, from an app that's running on the phone that has native capabilities and looks completely like it looks like a phone app, and takes us all the way back to the enterprise, back to JD Edwards and the backend systems. So now let's take a look at JD Edwards. Okay, this is our JD Edwards. Now we're on the server, on the backend. If I go here and I look for Glenn, let's go back into JD Edwards. And in JD Edwards, I'm going to open my address book and look for the new contact that I just created. We'll give it a second to load. So if I look for Glenn here, I should have 75912 75213, which was what I got before. If I go to 75213 and I hit select, I should see all the details I entered before, like 123 Street, Laguna Hills, and so on. So this is where we can see, like I said, the whole way from the phone to the backend system. Now let's take a look at how we build this magic. In the XPI monitor, we have the project running. If I refresh it, I'm going to see, can you see my right side of the screen? You can.
Just the monitor.
Yeah, I have the GoToMeeting thing. On the monitor, we can see the messages that came in. So we see a message that came to a REST interface. And we'll take a look in a moment at how we did that. And that message came in with, if I open it, this is the data that came in. Glenn, Johnson, an email, and so on. And then I see that this data was entered into Salesforce and into JD Edwards. If I open the project, Magic XPI project that we've called, this is the Magic XPI project. And here we see that I have two triggers to this process. Now the trigger basically was an HTTP call. I exposed the REST interface to this process that goes into the backend systems, into Salesforce and JD Edwards. I exposed it as an HTTP resource. I also exposed this flow as a web service. Now, this is how I can reuse this flow. I can either send data from a phone, but I can even create a portal, a simple form, HTML form, and submit it and send it to this flow. I can create a web service, so I don't have to write this flow every time for different systems. I can expose it and reuse it and call it from multiple different systems that send data to the flow. Now what I'm doing in the flow is obviously in my trigger, I'm getting all the fields from the phone app by first name, last name, and so on. I'm writing the data into Salesforce, and I'm mapping on my fields into Salesforce, all the fields I got. I'm calling the create new contact for function. When I'm done with Salesforce, I'm going to call JD Edwards. In JD Edwards, I'm going to call the address book master business function. Here again, I'm going to map all my data into JD Edwards. All these capabilities are part of Magic XPI, which means when I add a component with JD Edwards, I just call the address book function, and I get all the fields immediately, so I can just map and I can manipulate data on the fly inside the mapper. And when I'm done with all these functions, I'm also going to send a response back. And this is the result I got from the address book with the new address book ID, the response I got from Salesforce with the new Salesforce ID, and these are the variables that I'm going to send back to the HTTP request. And that HTTP request, this is what I displayed on the screen. Obviously, I don't need to show the code that was generated in my address book in JD Edwards to the end user. I can just say, I can just give him a message letting him know that the contact was created successfully. So this is what we do in Magic XPI. This is how we integrate into the different backends. What's left is how to build screens like that in Magic XPA. This is the Magic XPA application. If we talk a little bit about Magic XPA and how it works, Magic XPA is built on models, data, and programs. Models are my styles. Data is the data that I'm using in my application, and programs is what's happening in my application. The interface of Magic XPA is what you see is what you get. So if we look at different programs that we saw before running on the various platforms, for example, the main menu is the screen where we saw all our buttons. Now, if you notice, this looks a little different than our apps. Okay, if we go back here to the main menu, this looks smaller. On my screen here, it looks a little bigger. That's because when I run the application, my application identifies what operating system and what screen I'm running on. And this program has actually more than one form. It has a form for tablets. It has a form for phones. And what you saw was the smaller form for phones. Now, when I actually develop, I don't even need emulators. What I do is I use my internal emulator, which currently is not working, but I use my internal emulator and I run the program from inside Magic XPA. So I don't have to test on 10 different phones and devices just to make sure that my application is working. I can test everything from inside Magic XPA. And when I'm done and my application is working and I've developed all the business logic I wanted, that's when I start deploying the applications to the phone. That's the last step. It's more a technical step. I just go through a wizard and deploy the applications to the phone. I don't have to go and develop and test it on every phone and make sure that it's working. I'm counting on the platform to take care of that part. So back to my screen, this is a what you see is what you get editor. I basically just drag and drop buttons and move stuff just on the screen, and I can edit my screen. Most logic in Magic applications is done based on events, and every program has data view, logic, and form. Data view is the field I work with. Logic is the logic that's happening in my screen. For example, I have a program called Contacts, and I'm going to call this program when someone clicks on the Contacts button. And this is how I can add logic. I can go to my Contacts program, and in the Contacts program, I can go and take a look at the event I have here. And here I have an event that says Add Contact. When this event is being triggered, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an HTTP call. The type of call is going to be a post. The post is to the demo server, that's the server we're looking at, with the arguments that come from the screen. So I'm basically going to take the fields from the screen and put them into this argument string. And I'm going to send this string to the HTTP trigger, to the REST interface that's waiting for me on the XPI Studio. And this is basically the whole story from beginning to end. So I have an app. I have an app that's deployed on multiple platforms. I can do different actions on that app. The app shows me data that comes from multiple platforms and allows me to submit data back to multiple platforms. On the platform side, I send data into different systems like JD Edwards, and I do all of that using Magic XPA to build my front end and Magic XPI to build my integration flows. Glenn?
Wow, great. Thank you very much, Michael. We're going to open it up to questions now. So that any of you who have questions, please go ahead and type them into the question area or into the chat mode, and we'll be happy to look at those and answer those for you. So I'm checking for any questions. One question we got early on is there any material for this session? The recording, as I mentioned, will be online, but we will also, if you want to send an email to info@magicsoftware.com and ask for today's JDE mobile PowerPoint, I can send that to you in PDF format and get you some of that backup information. We also have Magic University training courses, and the full Magic XPI and Magic XPA documentation are also online, but you might want some guidance to that. We also have a number of enterprise mobility webinars, or excuse me, white papers online. So just get in touch with us. We'll be happy to guide you through any of that. I know navigating a website can be a little bit intimidating sometimes. Another question.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Michael.
Another very good resource is the mobile demo application that ships with Magic. So when you install Magic XPA, one of the applications that just comes as a sample project is the mobile demo application. And it's an application that will show you, give you code examples of how to build simple programs and also how to interact with your devices, with the camera, with the address book, with the location services, and so on. Many code examples that you can play with and learn from.
And of course, you can download the Magic XPA Single User Edition and get all of those samples when you do so, right?
Yep.
Okay, next question. Is there any Oracle Fusion we'll need as layer like Oracle WebLogic? The answer to that is no. You do not need RedStack in order to utilize this. Is that correct, Michael?
It's correct. You can install the Magic servers, Magic XPA or XPI on any operating system, but you don't have to.
Right.
You can use any web server and run it on any operating system.
Yeah, and it's actually a good question because with Oracle offers very limited mobile solutions, as most of you know, for JD Edwards. They offer an iPad app, which is basically the entire HTML version of JD Edwards on an iPad. And we talked about all the reasons why using the entire app just doesn't make sense. They also offer 4 specific applications, one for expense reporting, one for sales inquiries, and a couple of others, but a total of 4 at this point with 2 more planned. And those have been out for about a year, so there's not a rapid pace of change expected on that. And they do require the RedStack, they do require the enhanced version of WebLogic for those Oracle solutions. The nice thing about Magic XPA and Magic XPI is that it will work not only with Enterprise 1, which is everything we just talked about was Enterprise 1 only, it will also work with World. It will also work with BlueStack if you have BlueStack. And it will provide you with the ability to obviously create these custom apps very quickly in a variety of different areas, business requirements, not just the 4 limited, really almost like examples that Oracle provides. So that's a good question. Let me see if there's any other questions coming in here. Is it like JD Edwards' mobile app, or what is the difference? Well, I kind of just answered that. Yeah, the difference, there are 4 example apps with JD Edwards, as we mentioned, that Oracle offers. So to the extent that they're mobile, yes, they're similar. But the difference being that with this solution, you can create any app without the need to add all the extra infrastructure, expensive infrastructure that we just mentioned. Let's see, so those are good questions. How about Oracle Fusion middleware like SOA? Do I need to install it? No, basically the Magic XPI integration platform that Michael showed you that has the flows, it's on the screen right now with the components and so forth, is providing the kind of functionality that you need to deal with the integration. And the Magic XPA application platform provides you the functionality that you need in order to deploy the mobile apps. So that's all you need in addition to your JD Edwards environment. There is some configuration, Michael, that you might want to address that's required on the JD Edwards side. That's about anywhere from 2 to 4 days probably of CNC work. Is that right, Michael?
Yeah, on the JD Edwards side, What we need is Java interoperability configured. Sometimes it takes an hour, sometimes it takes 3 days. It's an internal process that's it's basically a configuration within JD. It has nothing to do with Magic. And we have experts that can help you configure that on the JD Advanced side.
Right. So that's good. Let's see if we have any other questions. Oh, well, I tell you, we keep answering the questions, and then I read the question. This is, what is the required prerequisite from the CNC point of view? I think you just answered that, correct, Michael?
Right. You need to have Java interoperability configured on your JD. Usually JD ships with a demo application that does address book. It's a small Java application that connects to your JDE for interoperability. If you can configure, if that works, we can connect within 10 minutes. Okay. We're using the same connection. Maybe
right. Here's another question. Does the app require any underlying software on the phone or tablet?
It does not.
Okay. So basically, you might want to explain what the Magic client is. Right.
So what you see on both phones that I was playing with, on the iPhone and on the Android, these are native apps. Now, by native we mean there's an app that's running on the phone. This app is a Magic client that talks that sends data between the client and the server. It exposes to Magic everything that's on the phone, the camera, the geolocation, and so on. And it allows us inside the Magic program to access all that data. On the phone, on the device, you're going to have a Magic client installed, and that's the only thing you need to have installed on the phone. You can wrap that client as your app and put it on the store, or you can just use the generic client that's already available on the store. You can go on any one of the stores and just download it and connect to a Magic application using it. If you look at it, yeah. Does that answer the question?
I think so, but if it doesn't, they're going to ask again. The question here says, the demo pointed out the differences between tablets and phones, but how does Magic XPI handle the different phone models? Of course, that would be Magic XPA. I know the names are a little confusing, but you want to answer that one, Michael? How does it
Yes, the clients are different on each phone. So the Magic, the Android client or the iPhone client or the Windows Phone client or the BlackBerry client, each one of them, that's what we do. We build clients for each phone, and the clients know how to work with the various phones and know how to translate things that are generic for us, like, for example, the back button. As far as a developer, I don't care what back capability your phone has. If it's an Android, then it just has a back button, or if it's an iPhone and it has the actual button. What I do is I catch the back event and I write logic against it. Usually I tell Magic to save the record. How each operating system deals with that, that's our job as Magic to give to you as developers, and you don't have to deal with that. So, for example, if I click on my Android app and I open the phone, okay, I can do the exact same thing on my iPhone app, and I can click the same button. Now, how that works on the iPhone, how that works on the Android, that's the client's problem. You as a developer don't have to worry about that. You don't have to deal with that. That's what the client does. It exposes all the different capabilities, like the camera, like the geolocation, every capability the phone has, to the developer, and it creates the developer just works inside the Magic Studio. That's also why I said I usually don't need to test the app on different phones. I can just test it inside my Magic Studio, and if everything is working there, then I simply deploy it to the different phones.
Next question from Rod. Can Magic run in a virtual environment?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, all these demos that you've seen, all the servers, all the machines are virtual.
Right. I noticed, Norm says, I noticed you were showing Salesforce.com as a CRM plugin. Does Oracle CRM product plug in just as easily?
Not as easily, but yes.
Okay.
We connect Oracle CRM for web services, so we don't have a specific connector for Oracle CRM. We have a specific connector for Salesforce, for Dynamics CRM, for JD Edwards. We don't have a specific connector for Oracle CRM, but that's because Oracle CRM has easy-to-use web services, so we use the web services component for that. Or we can build a component. It's relatively not so difficult to build these components, and we keep updating our studio with new components all the time, and we can create one if needed.
Okay. Another question, how do you deal with JDE authentication? Good question.
When I define my resources in the project, I define the user and password that I'm going to access JD Edwards with. Now, this is a general resource, and this is also a good practice. We recommend to create a user that connects to JD Edwards. Whatever rights that specific user has, that's the rights I'm going to get when I write data. I'm going to write data as this user, JD. Now, this is a generic resource. I can also, as part of my component, define a specific resource. So I can override this data that comes from the general resource specifically to my component. What that means is we have flows where, for example, we're integrating SharePoint into JD Edwards, or we're creating apps, applications that integrate into JD Edwards, and we don't want to use a generic resource. We want to use the specific user that was accessing. I can get that user as one of my parameters, and when I connect to JD Edwards, I can connect using that specific user authorizations and authentications that that specific user has on JD Edwards.
Okay, we've still got, looks like 4 questions left. How do you deal with JDE authentication? Oh no, we did that one, sorry. The next one is, how often is the Magic software updated to the latest and greatest mobile OS versions?
We have service packs every quarter, and service packs contain updates to everything, the clients, new capabilities, new components on XPI, to give you an exact schedule of when a new OS comes out and how long it takes us to create a new client. Usually our clients are compatible with the latest operating system. If there's like big changes and we need to change the client, it might take a few weeks, maybe a month or two.
Right. Okay. Is there any development tool for customization, or it's included in Magic?
Everything you need to develop with Magic is included in Magic.
Right. Okay. I think that was the last question. The last one just says thank you. So thank you very much, Michael. Thanks to all of you for the great questions. I know that it's a little confusing sometimes in terms of how the pieces fit together. We'll probably take that to heart, Michael, and create a slide or two to explain the architecture a little bit better. I'm sure I could have done that before the demo began. And then we look forward to talking with all of you further. We'll have more webinars on this topic, and if any of you want to put us to the test on the 30-day to app challenge, we'd be happy to, of course, to engage with you on that. So thanks for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on another Magic webinar. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you, Glenn.